Meet little Roy. At 7 weeks old, he was in a small, low-lit tank and very dark. When I added him to a bigger, more brightly lit tank, he lightened considerably. When I put a blue background on his tank, he turned a brilliant color of yellow. He also decided that he was a she, but Royette's story is for another video. Seahorses have tiny sac-like organs called chromatophores that contain a number of pigments which cause the seahorse to change its color. Each species only contains 3 to 4 basic pigments, and all of their color combinations come from those 3 to 4 basic pigments. Melanophores are the most common pigment cell, and they contain melanin, the black coloration. When a seahorse is scared, injured, hurt, or stressed, its nervous system signals the melanophores to expand, and the seahorse rapidly changes to a dark or black color. If you've had no stressors or injuries in your tank and your seahorse turns dark, check your water quality. Ammonia or bad water will also make a seahorse turn very dark. This is little Walid, the moodiest seahorse I know. He changes color for any reason at all, especially to show his brother or siblings that he is the biggest, baddest seahorse. Many things cause a seahorse to change its color. At nighttime, seahorses will typically darken up to blend in with the darkness and their surroundings, and if you turn on a light too quickly, the shock will cause them to also change color quickly in response. They also change color based on their surroundings. This seahorse right here has spent way too much time hanging out by the black filter sponge. One of the main reasons a seahorse changes color is for courting or male competition. In this video right here, the male has cut in between the two trying to court. They'll do a few wrestling moves and give each other a few glares, maybe even use their tails to do a few side swipes. They'll both turn very bright and white colored, trying to show that they are the best. When one seahorse submits, you can tell because he will start to darken and back off. The seahorse that submitted may even darken in response to the seahorse that dominated over the next few days every time he sees him. When I said in my last video that seahorses eat slowly, what I meant is that the time it takes them to feed is longer than that of most fish, but the way that they eat is actually very quick. With no teeth, the seahorse relies on a technique called pivot feeding to eat. The trigger, located under the jaw at the base of the throat, is actually the hyoid bone. When the seahorse gets close enough to its food, it lines itself up, turns its nose down above the shrimp or prey, and with a sudden burst of speed, the sternohyoideus muscle contracts, pulling the trigger. The head pivots as the snout snaps upward, and the seahorse inhales a bunch of water, drawing in the shrimp at the same time. It's such a powerful form of suction that you'll sometimes see smoky puffs of excess water and food escape through the gills. Along with no teeth, seahorses also have a very primitive stomach, which doesn't store food well, meaning they have to eat quite a bit. The seahorse's stomach should never look caved in like this one shown here. This female had actually just done an egg exchange, which is the only reason a seahorse's stomach should ever be caved in like that. Seahorses should be very plump, fat, and happy, eating constantly. Let's quiet things down so you can hear it. This sound is made by two parts of the seahorse's skull moving against each other. According to RosamondGiffordZoo.org, the crown-like coronet at the back of the seahorse's head has a loose joint with the rear edge of the skull. When a seahorse lifts its head suddenly, the edge slips under the coronet. As the head is lowered, it snaps back out, making this sound. Seahorses have binocular vision. What this means is that each of their eyes work independently. This comes in handy in the wild, where they have to sit motionless for long periods of time, waiting on their prey to come close enough for their suction method of eating to work, all the while keeping their other eye out for predators. In our home aquariums, it's just plain cool to watch them look two ways. The crown-like crest located at the back side of the seahorse's head is called the coronet. It's one of my favorite things because it crowns the seahorses the prince and princesses that they truly are. Scientifically, the coronet evolved to provide an anchor for the muscles that make the trigger work. We talked about the trigger and the clicking sound that's made when a seahorse eats. Basically, to recap, the coronet is loosely attached, so when the seahorse lifts its head, the edge of the skull slides beneath the coronet. When the seahorse bows its head, the edge of the skull slides back out. As the skull slides beneath and then back out of the coronet, that's how the clicking sound is produced. It's the bones rubbing together. The size and shape of the coronet is also a good way to tell male from female and which species the seahorse is from. For instance, Cuda have a rounded coronet that's low to medium in height, often overhangs the back, often has a cup-like depression in the top, and isn't spiny. Whereas an Erectus's coronet is sharp, spiny, and often ridge-like. Ingens have high, fluted coronets. Barbori have medium to high coronets with 5 sharp spines, and Reedy have large, low, and convoluted coronets. Some of the breeders and members of one of my favorite Facebook groups, credited below, donated some of these pictures. So you tell me, can you tell the difference? The coolest thing about the coronet is that each seahorse has an individual coronet. While there are similar characteristics within the species, each seahorse's coronet is as individual as a human's fingerprints. Seahorses are actually terrible swimmers. They rely on their dorsal fin beating 30 to 70 times a minute to propel them through the water. They do have pectoral fins on either side of their face that help them to maneuver, but they contain no caudal fin, and in high current, they basically just move back and forth, trying to get by. However, they love flow. So, if you own seahorses, be sure to provide them many hitches for their vice-like prehensile tails. If you don't, they'll hitch on to just about anything, including each other. Instead of scales, a seahorse has hard external bony plates arranged in rings around its body and kept together and covered by a thin, fleshy skin. Each species has a different number of plates, and this is a great way to identify the species. Unlike most animals, the seahorse male is the one who carries the babies. When the female has eggs she's ready to give him, she extends her ovipositor. This will be inserted into the male pouch to release the eggs to him. However, lining up for that perfect insertion sometimes proves difficult. Their courting dance, which includes a beautiful spin around each other up and movement upwards, can last anywhere from hours to days. But eventually they'll take their final spin and connect. The female will release the eggs into the male's pouch. The male then has to adjust the eggs by moving back and forth and making sure they are embedded into his pouch. He then provides prolactin, oxygen, and acts as an incubator. The eggs hatch in his pouch where the salinity of the water is regulated and gets the fry ready for the life at sea. While the male is the one who actually carries the babies, the female is still in charge. She is the one who initiates the actual egg exchange. She does this by reaching up towards the surface, pointing her snout skyward, almost like a nod, telling the male, "It's time to go now. Let's do this." And they begin their beautiful dance. Unfortunately, sometimes the male is already pregnant. Right here in this video, the female nodded and nodded. I felt so bad for her. No one ever followed. Once the male has given birth, his job is done. The fry are on their own to take care of themselves and feed themselves. This is one of the reasons that so many are born in each batch. One of the things at least a rectus fry do from birth is hitch. We can provide security and stability to these fry by giving them hitching posts right away. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. The seahorses started splashing me to let me know I was going into a little bit too much detail for a YouTube video. It's just that I find them fascinating. So, if you want exact details about how they eat, or further information about how they change colors and so on and so forth, I've provided links in the description that will take you to in-depth information. I also wanted to apologize that the How to Build the Tank video is not out yet. One of my males got GBD and it was very tragic for me. So we will cover his treatment here, but I had to deal with it personally before I could share it with you. So, break's over, we're back. Stay subscribed, new videos coming soon.